right side of media. So let's get right into it, guys. Shout out to Nick Fuentes for breaking this down as well.
There's a really interesting article about Vance that was written by David Frum a few years ago. And for those that don't know, David Frum is your prototypical liberal Jewish neocon Republican. So David Frum writes an article about J.D. Vance. I think this was last
Oh, guys, let me know if you guys can hear the video.
Year, a couple of years ago, was in the Atlantic. And it turns out that Vance was writing for Frum in 2011. When J.D. Vance was in his mid-20s, after he left the Marines, before he went to Yale Law School, Vance was writing for Frum. And he was writing, among other things, in defense of affirmative action. Writing in defense of the war in Iraq. He was a neocon. He wrote 6 articles for Frum in 2011, 15 years ago, when he was my age. At this very early stage, before Vance went to law school, before he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, before he's anybody, David Frum writes that everybody on his team believes that Vance will play an important role in national politics as the leader of moderate conservatism, that Vance would recapture the GOP from the Tea Party and from the populists for the moderates. You have to wonder, what would make someone like David Frum, a Jewish neocon, believe that a 25-year-old veteran who was really a journalist in the Marines, didn't even see combat, what would make him think that this obscure blogger would play a national role in politics leading moderate conservatism? His articles were that good? But Frum says, he tells us what makes him believe that. He says that J.D. Vance's superpower is his credibility. And his credibility comes from his personal narrative. What's his personal narrative? Hillbilly Elegy. That he's got this story about being from the Rust Belt and emerging from strife. So he's a 25, 26-year-old veteran who didn't even see combat. It's not like he's a war hero, not like he's some high-ranking guy. He wrote PR articles. He's some obscure blogger, and they say this guy's going to be a national figure in moderate conservatism because his superpower is his credibility. Now, what does credibility mean? It means believability. Credible means believable. What does credibility mean in that context? It means that Vance would have credibility, believability for white rubes, for white GOP voters. He would have credibility with them. He would have credibility, believability, relatability because of his story that these middle American radicals that Sam Francis describes, the white working class, would believe him as he delivered the GOP from the Tea Party to moderate conservatism, to a socially inclusive, neocon, environmentally friendly version of conservatism. And let's not forget, as late as 2017, Vance loved Barack Obama. So this is a pro-Obama, pro-Iraq war, pro-affirmative action, pro-transgender, moderate conservative, mentored by a neocon. And the neocon says this guy is going to save the GOP from the Tea Party because the rubes will believe him. You go through his life story and you realize that everything about him is fake. His time in the military, fake. Look up his role in the Marines. He was a correspondent, a combat correspondent, which means he wrote press releases for the military. So he's a fake Marine. He goes to Yale Law School. He meets Peter Thiel. His first job in tech, it's a biotech firm. The CEO says he only hired Vance as a favor to Peter Thiel. That was his first job. How does a law school graduate go to work for a biotech firm? Well, the guy that hired him tells us he hired him as a favor to Thiel. Then Vance works at a series of venture capital firms. First, he works for Thiel for about 7 months while he drops his book. Then he works for the founder of AOL at a company called Revolution. Then he starts his own venture capital firm with money from Peter Thiel. 3 firms in 5 years. When he was at Peter Thiel's firm, his colleagues say they never saw him in the office. Inexplicably, he raises over $120 million at his firm, mostly from Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, and others. So he's a fake venture capitalist. Then, even though he opposed Trump from the very beginning,
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked it.
Peter Thiel organizes a meeting with Vance and Trump in 2021 to smooth things over. And then in 2021, Vance declares his candidacy for Senate of Ohio. Peter Thiel makes the biggest contribution of any individual donor in a Senate race in American history of $15 million. Thiel, with his connections, secures Trump's endorsement, and Vance becomes a senator. So he's a fake Marine. He's a fake venture capitalist, and then he's
Okay, fake Marine. Come on now. He wasn't a Marine.
the fake MAGA senator. Now he's the vice president of the United States. Even his name is fake. He didn't go by Vance until he was 30 years old. Vance was the name of his Meemaw, and he changed his name to Vance just a few years before he published his book, which had been in the works for as much time, about his Meemaw, his story that gives him the credibility. For 30 years, he was J.D. Hamill and went by other names. He's a complete artifice that was created by neocons and defense contractors. There's nothing organic about it. Nobody organically gets hired at Mithril Capital and launches a book that for some reason just blows up. It's not organic to get $15 million to run for Senate from a CIA contractor. That's not organic. They are going to start pushing Vance for president 2028. Vance for president 2028. That is what they're going with. And that's why you see across the board all this Vance shilling. Vance is funny. Vance is like Jim Halpert from The Office. Vance made that face. Vance, they're pushing it so hard. And you know what's so funny? Vance for president was born a week after Trump's inauguration in 2017. In that same article with David Frum says that there was a meeting a week after Trump's inauguration in Washington, D.C. Vance called all the never-Trumpers, including Frum, who voted for Hillary Clinton, to plan out a future Vance for president campaign in the late 2020s or early 2030s. And here we are. His conspicuous ascendancy from fake venture capitalist to U.S. senator, and then in 2 years from U.S. senator to vice president, and in 4 years to front runner for president of the United States.
And yep, that's pretty much the story of Vance, and he's not wrong. I had to background check a lot of that stuff, but yeah, what he's saying about Vance is pretty damn accurate. And so is this. And like I said, it's not me bashing Vance. I'm just trying to find out everything about the man, since all of a sudden he's trying to push this man on us. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so what? Just Vance, no Rubio, nobody else, just Vance. All right, that's going to make me a bit suspicious, and it's going to make me want to look into the man. But let's get right back.
Peter Thiel, co-founder of Palantir. It's not even fair to say he's a protege. J.D. Vance is a creation of Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance was a photographer, a journalist in the Marines, went to Yale Law School. It was Peter Thiel that set up J.D. Vance with his first job in Silicon Valley. It was Peter Thiel who set up J.D. Vance with his first job in venture capital at Peter Thiel's venture capital fund. It was Peter Thiel who got J.D. Vance another job at another venture capital firm. It was Peter Thiel who funded J.D. Vance's venture capital fund. It was Peter Thiel who encouraged J.D. Vance to write Hillbilly Elegy and promoted him and got him an audience at the Aspen Institute and other international organizations. It was Peter Thiel who brokered a truce between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance after J.D. Vance was a never Trumper for years and then sought Trump's endorsement in the Ohio Senate primary in 2022. It was Peter Thiel who gave $15 million to J.D. Vance's PAC when he ran for Senate, the most money ever given by an outside group in a U.S. Senate race at that time. And it was Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson who called Donald Trump in July 2024 and encouraged Trump to choose J.D. Vance as his running mate. J.D. Vance was created by the fortune created by Palantir. He was groomed, he was appointed, he was selected, he was elevated by Peter Thiel, and the fortune that funds Peter Thiel, which was created by Palantir. This is now the vice president of the United States. And this is who all of the conservative surrogates are now trying to astroturf for the 2028 presidential nomination. They are trying to seed the ground for a J.D. Vance presidential run, a plan that has been in the works for probably over 10 years. All these people on Twitter saying J.D. Vance might be better than Trump. I like J.D. Vance. He's the real deal. He's got authenticity. You can't fake that. All these people endlessly promoting J.D. Vance after his debate performance, after he was nominated, defending him from the credible allegations that he's weird. All these people endlessly shilling for Vance are a part of this conspiracy.
Come on now, that was just pettiness. That was being petty. He's weird.
Like Vance.
Like, I don't know. I think in the first bit of the election, he did come out maybe a little shy, but then he opened up. So we're talking about a guy who really wasn't in a public eye like that, who's now front page and center because he's Trump's VP.
Are being paid by Peter Thiel. Bari Weiss, funded by Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel. Bronze Age Pervert, funded by Peter Thiel. Curtis Yarvin, raw egg nationalist.
And, the reason why Peter Thiel is so important is that, I can go in days and days about this man, Peter Thiel, and how weird he is, how I don't really trust his business ethic. I don't trust where this man is going with his operations and his hand in government. I just don't trust it. But I mean, you know what? Maybe you need to see the man in action. This is Peter Thiel, right? Like, look at this guy. Look at him. The man don't even look like he has a soul. But hey,
this is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing. I
mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50?
Yeah, he does own Palantir, the CIA operated AI system, I believe. or surveillance system, I believe.
Years
AI surveillance.
to peace and safetyism. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, because and we've submitted.
But all right, though, next video to dive a little deeper into this man.
My head, I you know, you hold a gun to my head. I'll vote for Trump. I'll still be less involved.
In this video, we will talk about how Peter Thiel, a psychopath, God complex freak, has impacted our entire country, helping win the presidential election, and is even affecting the entire world. Every movie villain has a backstory. In real life, the villains more often than not have a road paved by gold, while slave labor builds their entire net worth brick by brick. Of course, they take credit for every single achievement. They spend their actual time to fight any pushback in the system to make sure no lowly peasants reaches their level of success. To be a sick individual, it's gotta start early, and for Peter Thiel, it does. He was born in Germany and then moved to Ohio, and everything bad comes out of Ohio, except my savior LeBron James, of course. His corruptness started when his
Nah, but bro, chill. Like I said, I'm in Ohio. Like, chill out with that. Come on.
engineering father Klaus moved them to apartheid South.
I mean, you're right though. Lex Wessler, Ohio. So we got that like high profile alleged pedophile. And then we got this guy.
South Africa. So I've been editing this video, and as I've been doing more research about Klaus, his father, I've come to realize that he's from the Nazi Party. He moved because the Nazis lost the war, and he was a Nazi. A large amount of Nazis moved to South Africa after the war, so much so that German was the second most spoken language in the region they were in. Which, as you could guess, he was not moving to South Africa to be oppressed, but to do the oppressing and make money off of slavery. There's another rich freak out there who learned how to oppress folks from South Africa, and sadly, we all know him. Elon Musk, the king of failing upwards, who we will talk about later in this video, because the dynamic of their relationship is really weird. More on that later. Peter Thiel is white, so he went to private schools in South Africa that were whites only, and we'll see how he feels about black people later in his career. His father in South Africa got into government contracts and started mining uranium. And by him mining, I mean he was using slavery of the African people to mine these materials for the South African.
Like I told you guys about, yes, slavery does happen in Africa still. I mean, but this time I ain't gonna lie to you. Got a point because it's done by a white man in this scenario.
Africa got into government contracts and started mining uranium. And by him mining, I mean he was using slavery of the African people to mine these materials for the South African, Israeli, French, and Chinese government to build atomic bombs. And I'd say at such a young age, this is probably how Peter Thiel became demented, because the Africans that were working had no clue they were even building a uranium mine.
The magic of uranium stems from its property of radioactivity. It is this same property.
So the risk of radiation, yeah, they were never even told about them. There's quotes from that time period that said the workers were dying like flies. And the people that were running the entire operation knew.
Pretty much had them mining uranium with no protection and just says, hey, nah, don't worry about it, bro. Just make sure you get the nice little rock out there that kind of makes you feel a little bit tingly every time you touch it. And you should be good. You know, you bring home some bacon and then you'll die maybe like a year or two later from cancer. Multiple cancers.
It was so bad that the white folks that would pay these workers would do it behind glass so they didn't get any radiation poisoning.
Of radon and its daughters is inhaled. Many radon daughters are retained in the lungs, where their decay and release of alpha particles can damage living tissue. The hazard is, therefore...
Speaking of poisoning his workers, there's a famous quote that is, you can even see apartheid from space. Because when looking at apartheid South Africa, the workers' homes were always near the radiation, while the rich white folks' homes would be built on the mountains so no radiation would get blown into their neighborhoods. And obviously they did this because they were just poor labor class and their lives meant nothing to them. So his father was your usual scum taking advantage of the apartheid system and slavery. Would you be surprised if I told you the apple does not fall far from the tree? Eventually, Peter and his family moved to California to run a gold mine. He spent the rest of his time growing up in California, and because Peter got private education, he was very smart and always did well in school. In college, he ended up at Stanford, but because he wasn't socializing much The boy was awkward and he had no social skills. You better believe if he was
Look
growing
like
up today, he would be in the conservative pipeline, quoting Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate. Just like any other social skill lacking rich white guy, he joined the College of Republicans. His classmates from that time were asked,
it'd be like that.
my light fell off the wall. A quick thank you to our sponsor, which is me, because I barely have any subscribers. But if you find this video interesting, please like and subscribe.
Really? Oh yeah, no. Make sure to follow this guy, Riverwan. He's actually giving a pretty good presentation right here for us.
So one day I remembered him saying the whole apartheid thing wasn't that bad and it was overblown. His first real step into the public eye was writing his book called The Diversity Myth, written by Peter Thiel and David Sachs, who was a venture capitalist who was also born in South African apartheid. David Sachs and Peter Thiel have been in many partnerships and ventures together even to this day. In his book, The Diversity Myth, he blames women for rape and discussed how higher education was increasing multiculturalization and this would harm the future of America. He just wanted to be around a bunch of white guys 24/7. Peter ended up getting his law degree and tried to walk that road, but gave it up because when you're rich, you can just give up law. And then tried to trade stocks and failed miserably and gave that up too. After that, he went to daddy and relatives and pulled together $1 million to start a hedge fund in the late 1990s. Because we can all just find $1 million to start our own hedge fund.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask,
now I remember when I was in business school at Wright State, the owner of Scene 75 came in and gave a speech, and it was the most unmotivating speech ever. I was like, bro, are you freaking serious? Dude literally said, you know, it was really hard to do it, but I gained up the confidence and I went out there and I asked all my family members and I was able to get $1 million. I was like, but what? Bro, if I round up all my family members and get it like that, I'll be surprised if I get over 100K. This man was able to do that and get $1 million. Like that was a relatable story. So I kind of know what this man's speaking to. It's like, bro, these people try to come out with relatable stories, but it's like, dog, trust me, a lot of people would have some decent businesses out here if their family members were able to scrounge them up $1 million for a business idea on an arcade. Like, trust me.
Me, this is a good old-fashioned American hard-working guy who did it all on his own with no help from anyone. Within his hedge fund, he lost almost 100K immediately. However, remember, he was in California, he was in the Bay Area, he was in the right place at the right time and was able to capitalize off the dot-com boom. This is when his life actually starts to get interesting. He invested in FieldLink, which was a technology created by Max Levchin, who was an actual coder and created a way for people to transfer money between Palm Pilots. I'm not sure how many people are even old enough to remember
PayPal.
what Palm Pilots are, but they're like the iPhone before the iPhone.
Yeah.
FieldLink later changed the name to Cofinity, which most people have probably never heard of. Out of this company spawned something that most people have heard of, which is the
PayPal.
system they use to make secure payments. That is PayPal. One of the main reasons he decided to invest and make PayPal was because he thought it could be turned into an alternate currency to take down the US government. Another quick note on PayPal, Thiel and Levchin, they employed no women and were proud of denying a candidate who said he enjoyed playing hoops instead of basketball. Sure, you could guess the reason for that. But back to Cofinity, this company was still only able to make payments between Palm Pilots, but literally in the building next door was the company X. Yes, there was a company named X, and you can probably tell where this is going. Company X was trying to do the exact same thing except across all phones. That company was ran by none other than Elon Musk, and this is where their relationship begins.
Well.
Musk and Thiel decided to partner up to bring this technology to all devices. Even back then, Elon Musk was a madman. He had aspirations to make PayPal so big that no one could stop them, and they did this by paying people to sign up for PayPal. We're paying people to sign up for their product.
Yeah, I remember Cash App stole that strategy right after. I mean, it worked for PayPal and it worked for Cash App.
Actually, their user base became massive, with most of their payments coming from porn and gambling. They decided to shift into taking a small percentage of every payment that went through their app. Banks and other partners were not happy about this. Elon's idea actually worked. The company had grown so much that they became untouchable. Their partners in the banks just had to accept it. Elon Musk partnering up with Peter
Damn,
Thiel
so take it to
ended
the
up
chin.
having its own risks. Thiel and his rich, backstabbing snake board members of PayPal, which they called themselves the PayPal Mafia, decided to boot Elon Musk when he was on vacation with his first wife. Back then, Elon called it a coup, and he would later say in an interview he was so furious that he had thoughts of assassination. But of course, Elon
Damn.
has no spine, so eventually he came back to Thiel and said, "I'm sorry, Daddy, for being rude," which was the smartest thing he could do because eventually Thiel would come to the rescue and save him. One of the most important parts of the PayPal situation was how Peter Thiel managed to stack $5 billion of straight cash in a Roth IRA account. The Roth IRA account was created for low and middle class Americans to try and stow away money for retirement. But of course, these freak billionaires found every way to take advantage of it. In Thiel's case, he forced the PayPal board to give him money to buy stocks in the company pre-IPO, which is before they go public, and then also took money from his own Roth account to buy over 500,000 stocks, which was illegal if you controlled the company. But at the time, he didn't. He found the loophole. Thiel was a trendsetter at this. Him and many other rich people took advantage of this system. In the coming years, Congress loosened the laws on this, so Thiel repeated this multiple times with multiple different companies. Any gains made in Roth IRA accounts are not taxed, so he will have access to that account with $5 billion when he turns 59. Peter Thiel is 57. Back to the main storyline. Eventually, PayPal was bought out by eBay for $1.2 billion. Elon made a lot of money selling PayPal, and he decided to start funding SpaceX. SpaceX was burning through cash and eventually got to the point where Elon couldn't fund it anymore. He didn't have the money to do the fourth launch. His company should have been cooked. But here comes the same man he said he wanted to assassinate to the rescue. Thiel and friends gave Elon Musk $20 million and allowed him to successfully launch his fourth rocket.
2, 1, 0. We're at stage 1.
After this successful launch, the government gave him a $1.6 billion contract, and Thiel's investment company now owns 10% of SpaceX. Thiel's connections don't stop there. He was also an early investor in YouTube, LinkedIn, and he was the first outside investor of Facebook in 2004. If you think about social media in terms of the algorithm, there's only one.
I mean, you said he was a bad investor, but let's be real though. He was investing in some of the most profitable companies of the day.
Doesn't have his hands in, and that's TikTok. But I want to say a very strong doesn't have his hands on it yet. I could go on and on about Thiel's history, but it's time to talk about how we see Thiel today. Because everything in what we are seeing today in conservative media is Peter Thiel, even Hulk Hogan. Peter Thiel secretly funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against a media platform called Gawker. They released a sex tape of Hulk Hogan a while back, and he ended up winning $160 million from that lawsuit and bankrupted that entire company. This is more ridiculous than anything else. We see Hulk Hogan on stage with Trump. There is no way that these things don't have correlation. Let's go over a list of companies that Peter Thiel has ownership in right now. He owns LinkedIn, SpaceX, Stripe, YouTube, Meta, Oculus, Lyft, Rumble, Airbnb, and the list goes on.
Whoa, really? No way. Rumble too? No way.
Meta, Oculus, Lyft, Rumble.
Damn, even Rumble, that is crazy.
Airbnb, and the list goes on and on. Thiel is on the forefront.
It's like if you're in tech, you can't escape this man's money.
Of technology for the military and government contracts, one of the companies being Palantir Technologies. Palantir's first investor was the CIA. The CIA has a capital investment firm called In-Q-Tel, and Palantir as a whole racked up over $1.2 billion of investments from the US government alone. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Thiel started PayPal to overthrow the government. Now his biggest investors in his company is the US government. This is very much like Elon Musk, two complete idiots that benefit from the government while trying to take down the government. It quite literally makes my brain hurt. Palantir is very active with military equipment using AI to commit attacks based on what the AI believes to be threats currently being used on the Palestinians. This use of AI did not start last year. This has been going on since 2021 when Israel committed atrocities in Palestine. And
back in 2021, Israel said that the use of this technology could be considered the first AI war. AI needs an insane amount of information and data to fuel itself, and there's no need to guess how Israel has gotten the data on Palestinians. Whistleblowers have come out saying that the NSA had provided Israel with raw data on phone records and emails from Palestinian Americans that would be in contact with their relatives in occupied territories. The NSA stated they are providing unfiltered texts and scripts of conversations that U.S. citizens are having with their relatives directly to Israel. And this abuse of power is how they were able to target Palestinians. The company is now saying it's currently developing an even more powerful AI targeting system.
Wow.
According to Palantir, Titan is a next-generation intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ground station enabled by artificial intelligence. It has machine learning to process data received from space, high altitude, aerial, and terrestrial layers. Knowing that SpaceX owns Starlink, which is Elon's satellite company, and a quick reminder, Thiel also owns a part of that, it would make sense how he has the capability to do all these things, and most likely under Trump with Elon's power, he's going to have zero restrictions on whatever he wants to do. Thiel is not just at the forefront of war overseas, but the leader in facial recognition in America. He was one of the early investors in Clearview AI in 2017. The tech world was worried that this technology would be used for weaponization of people on American soil. And sadly, they were correct. Thiel has used AI facial recognition under Trump's first presidency to assist ICE to find immigrants. They used information from Palantir to find and target unaccompanied migrant children to abduct them from their families. And this is exactly how we saw kids ending up in cages. The mass deportation that Trump has talked about will be on the back of Thiel's technology. And this time, there will be no one in power to stop him. And the reason why is because the people in power he put there. He has been involved in politics since 2007, although not successful early on, funding candidates like Ron Paul for president who failed, and then tried funding Meg Whitman for governor of California who also failed. He failed again in 2012, setting up a
Not good at picking
YouTube channel for
candidates.
Mitt Romney when he was running for president, and that time he spent $3.3 million in ads. Finally, Thiel found success in 2016 during Trump's campaign. Thiel was a prominent figure and speaker tokenizing himself of being a proud gay man in the Republican Party. I'm sure the conservative men that were crashing the Grindr apps were also feeling very inspired to speak their truths. This is where the success really begins. His power within politics would skyrocket. He has now funded Ted Budd, Senator of Washington, D.C., Ted Cruz, Senator of Texas, Blake Masters, Senator of Arizona, Eric Schmidt, Senator of Missouri. He has funded these House of Representative numbers: Tom Cole, Mike Gallagher, Harriet Hagman, Brian Harrison, Joe Kent, Kevin McCarthy, Chris Stewart, Michael Waltz, Patrick Witt. And one of the most important ones is Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, without Peter Thiel, is just some big-head, chubby-faced, misogynistic nerd living in Ohio. But with Thiel's help, he rose to riches. J.D. Vance, prior to getting involved in politics, decided to open a venture capitalist firm. Can you guess who gave the seed money to start it? It was none other than our boy, Peter Thiel. After that, Vance decided to run for Senate in Ohio. Thiel gave his super PAC $15 million, the most ever in a senator race. Thiel is directly connected to J.D. Vance receiving the nominee to become vice president. And this is where it gets a little weird. In 2024, Thiel says he is taking a step back from politics and won't be donating to Trump's campaign because all of a sudden, he thinks money won't help win this election. And this is just what I believe. He decided to not invest his money publicly because he is investing his money in the background, funding right-wing influencers, podcasts, and journalists, and even building an entire university. Co-founder of Palantir, Joe Lonsdale, created Texas University as a non-woke alternative college and has raised some $200 million to teach forbidden courses by people like Mark Andreessen. Thiel also gives scholarships and is an active donor to this college. Thiel also has an insane amount of connections to the people that Trump is bringing in to run different parts of the government. For example, Trump has chosen Jim O'Neill to work alongside Robert F. Kennedy for the Department of Human and Health Services. Jim O'Neill used to work for Peter Thiel. Trey Stevens, who is supposed to receive one of the highest ranking positions at the Pentagon, Defense Secretary, managing the defense budget and executing the priorities of the Secretary of Defense, basically means unlimited funding for Palantir. Blake Masters, who has also worked for Thiel, is under consideration to head up the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. When Blake Masters found out he was up for this position, he said that while he didn't have a clear visibility into the circumstances of this endorsement, he suspected members of the Trump campaign and friends helped make the case that the former president should call on him. Really, friends? This guy's claiming he didn't even know Peter Thiel was going to call him up. Peter Thiel has also directly impacted how we see money entering politics today. Many entrepreneurs who had not been politically active said the opportunity was too good to pass up. The chance to influence the government is a huge opportunity, said Jack Abram, who leads Thiel's foundation. Honestly, this rabbit hole I have been on, connecting all these dots, seeing who has their hands in what company and what part of government they are going to be influenced, is truly mind-boggling and hard to even understand how deep all of this goes.
I made this video prior to Donald Trump's inauguration, and this news article solidifies what I've been saying. A Trump party hosted by Peter Thiel with all of Silicon Valley. The party symbolized the euphoria of the tech industry on the cusp of...
But all right, now shout out to this guy, River Ward. Yeah, River Wand. Yeah, River Wand. Yeah. Shout out to him though. Pretty good video. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end it on this note. We appreciate the support, you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and head out, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. You guys can go ahead and do me a favor and double tap that screen, like the video. And if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe now. I mean, we have about 300,000 returning viewers every month. You watch it you've been watching for the past 6 months. You might as well go ahead and subscribe now. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Welcome to the fam, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow about around the same time. This is Set with Set Media. Y'all have a good morning. Peace, guys. Today, modern AI is quite advanced, except 2 problems. It is censored and it takes your information. Well, it's hard to find a tech company that don't, but let me introduce you to one. Shout out to my sponsor, Vance AI, which allows you to protect your information and avoid censorship. Now ask yourself, why should a team of programmers at these leading AI apps be the ones to decide what is okay for you to ask and think? Also, would you be comfortable if the presidential administration could govern what AI tells you? Man, I know I wouldn't. But also, while you think about that, did you know that? Let me tell you this, it's gonna be crazy, but ChatGPT has a former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now, guys. And shout out to that man, Edward Snowden. He called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. And we all know how Alexa is. Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. I mean, talk about a violation of privacy. But guys, these are just a few reasons I decided to team up with Vance AI and get you a better options or solutions to your AI needs. Now, guys, you can go ahead and check these guys out with my promo code. So shout out to Vance AI. Now, if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or government, you can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, Vance AI SET, and use the code SET. Man, so shout out, guys. So make sure you guys use the code. Put it up one more time for you guys right there. Once again, guys, if you guys want to go ahead and have unleashed AI, uncensored AI, go ahead and tap in with my guys at Vance AI, guys. Hey, this is Set, and appreciate the support. And shout out to the sponsor.